you know what, this is clearly a lot of mental stuff. Like maybe I need to sit back like right now when I don't have my knee and I can't really walk much to focus on my mindset. So that's when I started to focus on meditation and things along those lines, kind of really picture what my life really wanted to look like. And a lot of this stuff to me was very woo woo. And like, I'm like, this doesn't work. Like, this is so stupid. But then I was like, I'm just going to give it a shot and stay consistent with it. And I did. And slowly my mindset started becoming more clear. And I started realizing like what opportunity I actually had.
Guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Angela Gargano. Angela is someone that got put on my radar about 18 months ago when she appeared on our local ABC affiliate, KView, where she was talking about your fitness journey and was giving some practical tips on how to do that, take control of that, and how it not only impacts your physical health, but also your mental health. Her personality just really caught my attention. So I started following her on Instagram, where she gives some amazing tips and some guidance and direction for just getting stronger in every aspect of your life. I've really, really loved following her. She's got a personality that just lights you up. She's, like I said, a 4-time American Ninja Warrior. She's Oxygen Magazine's cover girl, Miss Fitness America 2016. She's a former gym owner. Now she is a personal trainer and in demand. Her programs are incredible. And she's just an all around great person. And I'm so grateful she agreed to be on the Ripple Effect podcast. So let's dive right in. Awesome. Guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Angela. So Angela, thanks for being on the Ripple Effect podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's been a busy couple days. So
I follow you on Instagram and you are doing stuff all the time, but what's keeping you busy the last couple of days?
last couple of days I went to a fitness conference. So I always go there to just kind of learn more. And it was so funny because I had a lot of people tell me like, I'm surprised that you're in the audience still doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I feel like you always need to go and continue to learn about whatever it is that you're doing, whether that be with fitness or it was fitness, business, all sorts of stuff. You always get a couple nuggets. And I feel like you always be learning in order to be a leader.
I love that. I love that. And the information that you pick up on that gives you new ideas and strategies to bring back to your clients, right?
Exactly. And I feel like you can't always think that you know everything because you definitely don't know everything.
Absolutely. And the people who think that, they're the ones that are in trouble for sure.
Exactly.
Well, I always like to start these interviews off just to give my audience just a little perspective, a little bit of background. Obviously, I said some of your professional accomplishments, but how did you become this awesome badass that you are? I mean, give us a little bit of the background story here.
I feel like a lot of times people that do a lot of these things, it's because they're overcoming some kind of like adversity or things along those lines. So I feel like for me, it really definitely started off within my childhood. I feel like growing up, I was always told I was too muscular, and that made me kind of hide away from everything for the longest time. And then as I started to get older, I was like, kind of wanted to almost like prove to myself and prove to others, like, no, I'm more than what you're telling me about my body. I'm more than this. So I feel like that kind of like when people reject you and all that negative stuff, I feel like it a lot of times can push people to do some spectacular things. So you can either take it and be paralyzed and do nothing, or you can really use that to help you grow. And again, for me, it was, the muscular arms. It was, when I was trying to do something, agencies telling me that I was still too muscular. I would never be able to model. I would never be good enough for this and never be good enough for that. And taking that and using that to drive me. So I feel like that is part of the reason that I have done what I've done.
I mean, you've created an entire brand out of yourself. I mean, you obviously have the playbook to what you need to do to become an entrepreneur and to make things go regardless of what people tell you. And I love that. Where do you think that drive and motivation comes from? Is it the rejection, or have you always had that in your belly, just like that burning fire?
Yeah, I do feel like I've always had it. It's always been in there in some sort of way. So I think that a lot of people feel that as well. It's like, that you're meant for more, that you can do more. And a lot of times when you're frustrated, it's because you're like, I know I can do something. I don't know why, I don't know what it is, but I just know that I can do something more. So I definitely feel like that's a big piece of what drives me with all the stuff that I'm doing, where athletics, entrepreneurship, I mean, it's really all related and it's all one type of thing, honestly.
What do you think the hardest part of sort of going the opposite direction of what everybody was telling you? What was the biggest challenge for you in sort of, saying, "Hey, well, I'm doing it anyway." But what was the big challenge for you at that point?
I think the biggest challenge is like along the way, you are going to fail. It's like I didn't just say someone told me I couldn't do something and then it just happened right away. It was the failures that kept happening and just wondering, is this ever going to happen to me? Why am I trying so much? And just knowing that as long as you stay consistent and you really put everything into it, it is going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. I think
Yeah,
that gave me a big picture of, again, for everything. And once you go through the process once and you keep failing and you're like, oh, like when it starts to happen again for whatever the next thing that you decide to do is, I feel like you're very familiar with it. So you're very familiar with failure now. And you're like,
yeah,
okay, cool. This is a part of the process. And the more I fail with it, the more it's going to get better. But at first it really brings you down because again, you're trying to do something that is against anyone thinks that you can possibly do. And, you get rejected again, you fail again, it doesn't work out the way you wanted to, and then all of a sudden after consistently doing it, it just kind of happens and you're like, oh, okay, I get
yeah,
why I had to go through all those failures in your journey, and you actually really grow within those moments. So you really have to be really excited about all those failures because that's where all the most growth comes from, right? It's not gonna,
exactly.
if it just happens, you're not really going to learn anything from it. You're not going to grow from it. It doesn't really, not much happens from it. But as you continue to fail, like you just learn so much along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's kind of like working out. I mean, you go to the gym, you don't see the results, and then you don't just quit, right? You have to keep pushing forward. You have to believe that, the results are going to be there. So, how do you coach your clients through that when they have their moments of self-doubt?
Yeah, I love what you just said there because I do feel like what people don't tell you is that most of the times people don't even, the reason people fail is because they don't even try or they get started and they don't see what they want right away. So they stop. That's why they fail most of the time. So I always try and encourage my clients and I always tell them that really consistency is it and just showing up. You need to show up, especially on the bad days, especially on the days that you want to. Even if it's not like maybe you're not showing up 100%. I get you can't show up 100% every day to the gym for entrepreneurship, whatever it is that is, but you just need to show up and you just need to do something. And
Yeah.
I think I always remind them of that. And I always try and make sure that when they are doing that, especially I have a couple clients, most of my clients are moms, right? So it's like they're not only like trying to work out and get fit and get their pull up, right? They are moms doing all sorts of other stuff that I wouldn't even know about because I don't even do that. I don't even know how to do everything. And I always remind them when they're like, oh, I didn't get the best workout. And I'm like, yeah, but after all the stuff that you went through with your kids being sick and this and that, you showed up. I'm like, so you have to know that you're already one step ahead of somebody who gave up during that moment. You showed up and you did something, whatever that is, you just did something.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, so what that drive that you kind of have that you've sort of tapped into, does that come from your parents? Does that come from your upbringing? Can you give us some sense of kind of how that all kind of started?
I mean, I definitely do believe that my parents were extremely hard workers. They were more in the traditional sense of definitely not entrepreneur sense at all, but I always saw them working super hard. My dad actually would always drive. It was over an hour. We lived in New Jersey and he would drive to the city and it was sometimes it could be 3 hours to New
Yeah.
York City, did the work all
Cool.
day, drove back home. So, I mean, you can already see the hustle and stuff like that there in that
Yeah.
sense, with having to do something like that. My mom, she grew up in such a, she didn't have the best time growing up. She didn't have family that was there for her. And she was able to get an education and become a teacher and do all those things and really, again, overcome so much that most people in those situations would have just given up on. So I definitely feel like the drive definitely comes from my parents. Now, I definitely do think that it was tough for them when I went from being a biochemist and having the normal, the salary coming in and knowing what
Yeah.
they're seeing to being an entrepreneur. That was really scary for them. So they definitely didn't really want me to do it. I definitely think they believed in me, but
Yeah.
just as concerned parents, they were just like, okay, this is like a whole other animal. Like, are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to be okay? And I'm sure they just didn't want me to like struggle in the way that I had to struggle as, entrepreneurship came, because you never know like
That's
how much
right.
money you're going to make or what's going to happen. It's always kind of a free for all with a lot of things. But yeah, I definitely think that my drive came from them because they've just overcome so much and it's amazing what they've been able to create just having literally nothing. Like I luckily had a family growing up who was at least there for me, even if they didn't understand, but they didn't even have that. They didn't even
Yeah.
have families that were encouraging their helping them. They just had to figure it out. I kind of do feel like when you're just thrown to figure it out, again, you either sink or you swim. It's either like, okay, I'm going to make this work, or you know what, I'm just going to accept that this is my fate and I'm not going to be able to do anything. So I definitely think the fire definitely comes from them.
I love that. So when you decided to make that switch, what was the driving factor to switch from being a biochemist to, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to conquer the fitness world?
I was just so unhappy. Like, I just remember showing up to the job and I thought biochemistry was going to be a lot different, honestly. Like, I thought I was going to be able to help so many other people with the cancer research and stuff like that. But it's actually like a whole other thing, right? You're lab coat and goggles all the time. You're worrying about, like, are we going to be able to get grants to even do the things that we want to do? I didn't understand half the time it was happening, honestly. Like, I was really good with my hands and making compounds and doing all this stuff. But when I was with people, because I was working at Brown University, I was like, I don't even know what you're saying, but I can make it. Like, I don't know what that means. So I just kept, just not feeling like I belonged, honestly, like where I was. And I knew that. And I knew that there was a bunch of people who were like, I don't think you belong there either. And I just kind of kept like listening to that. And I was like, oh man. And what finally made me the driving factor was I was doing pharmaceutical overnight shifts. So I went to large scale pharmaceuticals for a while. And I was driving an hour to go to the job, doing the job, hazmat suited in all night. So not really around people, like full on hazmat suit in, like can't even like make this up. And then this is overnight shift. So you start at 7 p.m. and then you leave at 7 a.m. I was exhausted from that. And there's a couple times I drove back where honestly, I think that like driving tired is probably worse than drunk driving. Like when all of a sudden you're just like, oh my God, I feel like there was a couple moments where I was like, I could have crashed my car. Like, I didn't feel great. I'm like, this is not how I wanted to live. So it really took a couple moments of being like, wait, like, this is not how I want to live my life. I have so much more potential and things that I can do. So I was very smart before I left. I saved up for 3 or 4 months of rent. I think it might've been a little bit more than that. And because I wanted to give myself some kind of runway and they were paying me a good amount. So like, all right, let me save this. Let me make sure that when I do, because I knew at some point I was going to just do it, that at least wasn't going to leave and be frantically trying to figure it out. And then in another job that I didn't want to do because I just needed to make money. Because at the end of the day, like going for your dreams is great, but you need money to live. And people just need to know
it's
that.
an unfortunate side effect. Yeah. But you got to do it, right?
You can't just be like, and that might be you save up enough. That might be you move back in with your parents. So this way you're not, having a rent or something like that. It may not look that glamorous, but it's something to make sure that you can actually put yourself into the next piece. Because again, at the end of the day, we need to eat, we need a roof over our heads, there's bills we got to pay. So making sure that you're really set up for success, whatever that looks like when you decide to leave.
Yeah. So so walk me through what you did initially when you decided to drive in. Were you deciding you were going to be a, fitness instructor at that point, or a coach, or what was it that
so I took a test, I took my certification while I was in the job. We would have like an hour or two break not in the hazmat suit. So I was just like literally studying to get my, my certification. So I got a personal training certification. I was getting mentored by somebody else and teaching me a little bit about like the ropes of like what would look like. And I really honestly didn't know exactly what was going to happen next, but I was also teaching gymnastics at this gymnastics studio in Rhode Island. And I said to her, like, hey, I would love to maybe teach the parents, like, because the parents kept coming in and being like, oh man, if only I was as strong as my kid, because I would always condition them. And I was like, why can't you be? Like this you can totally be. So I started doing boot camp classes at the gymnastics gym. And that was great because I was like, there's a lot of eyes in there. There's a lot of parents. This is a whole new thing. So everyone's just there for their kids, but they're like, oh, there's something for me that I can do. So I remember doing it. I remember the first couple of months, like nobody showed up to my class. Like I had nobody come to my class. I remember having one person show up to my class for a couple months and me just being like, I'm totally screwed. Like this is never going to work. Like, oh my goodness. And then as I just kept showing up for that one person and getting really good at that, then all of a sudden someone asked for personal training. It just kind of like slowly evolved because I just kept showing up for that one person and doing a really, really good job with them. And that's after maybe I think it was like a year and a half, it got so big that I was like, I can't do this in the gymnastics gym anymore. Like I need to get my own facility because I thought that was the next step. It's like, oh, I got a lot of clients. I got to go to the, open my own gym now.
Yeah.
So I did wind up doing that. I went like blindly into opening a gym, which is probably not the best idea to do it. But I did. And I think that's from the conference that I saw, like I went to this weekend, they're all like top leaders in the industry. The one thing I definitely saw from them is that they always took action. Like,
Yeah.
so I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to figure it out. But they just always took action, even if it was like scary and things along those lines. And I feel like as I was speaking, I was like, well, definitely done the same thing. So I must be on the right path.
So you had the gym, you decided to go down that path. And then was it, if I kind of looked at the timeline from your website a little bit and some of the research I did, then you kind of, was that right before COVID? And then you decided you had to pivot, or?
No, it was way before that.
Okay.
So I luckily had the gym. God, I'm so bad with dates. I need to sit down and like write a little timeline of like when the dates were with us. But I opened the gym. I had it for like, I think 2.5 years or something along those lines, way before COVID, way before anything.
Okay.
And then as I was doing it, I was just like, really did not love it. I did not love like, I felt like when you do what you love so much, it can honestly make you hate it at some point, because there's just so many other things that we're going into. I just wanted to work with the clients and help them better their lives. But you have to worry about, again, are they paying their membership on time so I can pay my rent? Landlords bothering you. People being like, oh, like, I love coming here, but this just happened, so I can't afford class. Do you mind if I come for free for a month? And you're like, oh no, like, I don't know. There's so many things that were happening.
Yeah.
And it just felt overwhelming. And I felt like I was again back to where I started. I was back to, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. Like, again, I enjoy the people. I know I enjoyed that aspect, but all the other stuff I didn't enjoy. And it wasn't until I went back to Ninja Warrior, this is for season 10, and I went up tearing my ACL on the show. And I just kind of like had all these flash moments of like, this is not what I want to do. Like, and I realized like I was young. I'm like, I always thought that like when you're in your 20s after college, like it's like over, like your life is to start. But I'm like, actually, like, you got so much time. Like, you're so young. So I was like, you know what? I was like, if I shut down the gym, if I wanted to, I could reopen one again if I wanted to. But I was like, this is not what I want to be doing right now. So I shut it all down, which is a very hard decision. I felt like I was going to let down so many people. I was like brokenhearted by the entire process, but I knew in my heart, and they knew too. They're like, she doesn't belong here. Like, she needs to go off and flourish. So I shut it all down. I moved back into my dad's. Like I was just telling you, that time I had no runway, 0 runway. I was like, okay, I got to figure out another way to make sure that I'm going to be okay. So I moved in there, and then I was commuting into the city, kind of like him, like on the train this time. And I just started going and taking classes with the best people in the business. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to learn how to be the best trainer. I wanted to learn, what could my next steps be? I wanted to do more fitness and video stuff. So I'm like, I'm just trying to surround myself with those people. I didn't know what it was going to come. I was just like, I'm just going to make real relationships and just keep going in every day, like, and just hustling. And that's exactly what I did. And a lot evolved from that. During that time period, I also took another class on how to online train. Again, this is way before COVID. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a class during this time. I have free time. I'm going to learn all about the online business, how this could work, what would this look like online? And then obviously things started evolving from there. But all these things that I'm talking about were very necessary pieces to the puzzle. If I had just like gone to online and gone to what I was doing now, I don't think I would be as successful. I needed to train people in person from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night and learn about their bodies and things along those lines. I needed to do the biochemistry job. I needed to do all those things so that I could do what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. And so all the work and preparation that you did ahead of time really kind of got you prepared when things did shut down, probably for COVID, right?
Oh, I was luckily like set, and people were just like, I remember people at the gym when I was going to the classes, I would go to certain classes. I knew certain people were going to be there, and I'm like, I'm going to work out with them. I'm going to like be among them. I want to show that like I'm in this too. And a few people, they weren't online yet. So sometimes they would be like, yeah, on Instagram, you're always doing these long talks and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is like super long. And I'm like, yeah, it's not for you. It's for people like, you're not my ideal client. So like, I don't like, you shouldn't listen to it. And I remember when COVID, happened, they're all like, oh, we saw what you were doing now the entire time as you were going online. I was like, yep, again. So I definitely feel like it set me up for success. I had so many people flying in, like flooding into the program. I had at that time I created the pull-up program. So
Yep.
the pull-up program was online before COVID, and everybody just had a pull-up bar in their house and they were like ready to go and they had nothing else to do. So I luckily lucked out with being able to really create a big audience during that time. Although again, I was doing it before that. So it wasn't like I just hopped in and was like, I have a program online now. It was all that time of like nurturing and having people, know that that's something that I was doing.
Now, that's the thing I really respect and admire about you in terms of being an entrepreneur is I don't think you lucked out at all. I think you were, laying the foundation and had the genius ahead of everybody else, which means that you already had your base already built up during that time. And, everybody else was trying to play catch up to what you were doing. And I just think it's tremendous that you had the vision to do it and the wherewithal, because a lot of times people get to a certain point and they only do so much and they're like, okay, this is good enough. But you kept learning and kept growing and kept teaching yourself so that you could continue to advance and be better, which is,
I feel like a lot of
off to
them
you.
too were very paralyzed. They were trying to make like the perfect program and stuff like that instead of just like selling it and just saying
Yep.
it's going to happen.
Yep.
I remember specifically during COVID, I was teaching on women's health. I still teach on women's health now, but I was teaching on there like at one point, I think 3 days a week, which is wild. And just getting like thousands of followers and all the people that I wanted to be in there. And we were really going through everything together. Like I'm in my tiny apartment in the city and we're going through this entire moment together. So it was a really beautiful thing. So I'm like, you're not only helping me, like I'm helping you. I'm like, you're helping me to like keep myself sane too. And I remember a lot of them during certain workouts we do, they're like, oh, I kept feeling core workouts in my back. I'm feeling it in my hips. And they just kept saying it. And I kept giving them feedback. And I'm like, this is an opportunity. Like they want a core program, but like a
Yeah.
real one, like one that's going to help them so they're not having back pain, like a
Yeah.
legit one. So I remember I randomly went on my website, I made an offer and I was just like, I'm just going to like see what happens. In my head, I thought I'm like, maybe I'll sell like 10 of these or whatever. So I'm like, core program, 30-day core revolution, going to be out. And it was like 30 days. I think I gave it, I don't know. I threw this out there. Nothing was made. I had no idea how I was going to make it. And I
Like the perfect entrepreneur, by the way. I think that's awesome.
I sold so many of them. I was blown away. I was like, holy shit. And then I'm like, okay, wait. I was like, I didn't have it made. But what was cool is I decided to make the first week of it. And this is all stuff I had learned on my journey for when I had issues with my knee. So it really was like, I'm like, wow, I have so many things that I can help them with. So I actually built it with them, right? So I would build the first week, see how they did, get feedback. I'd hear what they were saying. Oh man, this is great. Oh, I feel like I need more of this, whatever. And then I'd build the next week. Then I build the next week. And then when I was done in 30 days, I had a program that I could sell whenever. And I built it with them. So it wasn't like I just made a program that didn't make any sense. I didn't know if it was going to work. It was like, no, this literally built with them. It still goes to be one of the best selling programs I had, which is super wild.
That's awesome.
People still want it and love it. I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so beginner and basic. I see myself in my old, like, I was trying to figure out how to film it, how to edit it. I'm putting it on the website. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out. We took surveys with them. We got feedback from them. Then after that, they're like, oh, we want more. Then I'm like, oh no, what now? And then I wound up making a full body program. And then it just kind of kept evolving after that. But yeah, I really listened to what they wanted. And I took a lot of the feedback but I think what I was going to say, the most part is like, I took action before it was even made. Like I saw the demand. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time, but I saw that the demand, I saw that I could help. I saw that I knew what I could do to help. And then I was like, let's just make it. And now I have to finish it in 30 days because they're literally, they need it.
I love it.
I can't stall.
There's nothing better than building the plane as you're headed towards Earth, right? So yeah, that urgency can creates a lot of great business models. Really, it does. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So you were living in New Jersey at the time, right? And so you live in Texas now? You live in Austin?
Yeah. I mean, people always like ask me about my journey and I'm like, I kind of feel like I've been everywhere, but basically I grew up in New Jersey when I was younger. I went to Rhode Island for college gymnastics, got my degree, did all that stuff. I worked there. That was where I did the biochem. That's where I opened my gym. So I was there for about 10 years or so. Left Rhode Island, went back to New Jersey to live in my dad's basement for until I needed to get an apartment. Got the apartment in New York City. I think that was maybe 4 months before 2020.
Yeah.
So then I was like, this is great. I'm stuck in this expensive apartment and everything shut down.
Can't go anywhere, can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, pretty freaking cool to be in the city during that time. I mean, I feel like I lived in history and it was pretty kind of cool.
Yeah.
So as much as people are like, that was awful. I lived in history. I had to walk in Times Square with nobody there. Like that's pretty cool. So went there and then realized that most people were getting out of their leases no matter what in there. So I was like, you know what, this is a good opportunity. My mom lived in New Jersey. I'm like, I can move to New Jersey. I can be close to my mom while we're figuring out what even is happening.
Yeah.
I went up moving there. Knew that wasn't gonna be my end all place. That's definitely not where I was like loving, but I kept coming where I live now, Austin, Texas, and all the gyms were open here. Everything was great. So I would come and I would work out at a gym here called On It. I would go 3 days a week. And I would do, again, I could do everything online. So I'm like, I would get like a little Airbnb bungalow. I would go to the classes, learn from them, stuff like that. And what was interesting is that every time I came here, I knew nobody. I would always meet people, and then I would always extend my stay. So I always be like, I'm gonna stay another week. I'm gonna stay another week. So I kept like feeling like I've never done that with anywhere I'd been before, being like, I really just don't want to leave. So then I, got a little crazy, and I was like, you know what? Before my lease is up, I'm gonna sell everything I own. I'm gonna road trip cross country. Might as well do it now, right? It's like might as well. Road trip cross country. I got to meet a lot of the members from the programs I did, which was super cool. So I'd be like, oh, anybody awesome there? And they'd be like, oh, I'm in Cleveland. I'm over in Chicago. So I'd meet them in real life, which is awesome. And then we wound up in Colorado for a little bit to see if that would be somewhere that I'd wanted to stay. It was cool, but not like, it didn't have the Austin like feeling that I had. And I knew I was going to wind up coming back here. So about a year ago, I moved here. And it's just amazing. There's just great community. When you find your people and you find the people that really lift you up in the place that you don't want to leave, like that's where you need to stay.
This is the place to do it. That's for sure. And it's a great place to be an entrepreneur for sure. Without
everybody's entrepreneur. Everyone's trying to help each other too. And like, actually, so like the city can be a little bit more competitive and like kind of like tough. Here, people actually want to help. They're like, oh, okay. Like, how can I help you with that? Like, and I'm like, you guys are so nice. This is kind of
weird. That's awesome. Well, that's actually how I first, you first came on my radar, was that you were on KView. And I think you were actually at the On It gym, right? And doing a session. And thing I was really impressed by when they interviewed you was how you were talking about how important it is to have that physical health, but how it impacts your mental health, right? Being stronger on both sides of the coin is really important and critical. And you have such an amazing personality. So I started following you on Instagram. I'm like, oh man, I love this. You're hilarious as hell. I mean, you should be a comedian, right? So at the end of the day, your creativity on your videos are off the charts, but you're also really super practical, right? In the approach that you take and how you do it. And that I really respected and admired. And so it was real easy to want to continue to follow you. And I've told several people about you and hopefully picked up a few followers along the way. But I mean, you do a great job on everything you do, but you've really made yourself into a brand, which is awesome.
Yeah. And again, completely on accidentally. And honestly, that makes me feel so good. Cause sometimes I'm like, one of my friends was like, I have a request for Instagram from you. And I'm like, what? They're like, can you do more funny stuff? Cause your stuff is so funny. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. I didn't think I was that funny. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just kind of doing like what I feel like a lot of the videos that are funny are literally just what's happening with most people. So I'm like, this is super relatable. Like, this is what happens.
You're the other one the other day when you're playing the trainer that, hey, I don't understand these terms. And
that literally happened to me. I mean, the guy wasn't Chad. He was honestly, he was honestly the most amazing trainer. What my post was about was how a lot of trainers will send people these like Excel sheets.
Here's your workout. Yeah.
It's your workout. And that happened to me so many times where I'm like, this trainer is absolutely phenomenal, but like, I don't understand what any of these moves mean. They're like, I mean, they're abbreviated. There's all sorts of weird stuff on there. And then I would ask them about the movement. They tell me to Google it. And I'm like, now I don't want to do it. Like, cause my plan is, and this happened to me as I'm doing stuff now, it's like, I don't want to look it up and I just want to show up and know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I made a funny video about that. And hopefully like certain, again, trainers, I want to let them know, like, you are so amazing. So it's like trainers and like that, whatever clients you're trying to get your face in front of, like, make sure you make it really easy for them to show up, really easy for them to accomplish their goals. If you're making them search and do all this stuff, it's going to make it complicated. And I get the idea of like, if you do that, you're going to learn from more from it. So I guess that's in some sense, but stuff like that, like let it be so easy for them to show up and know, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what numbers I'm doing and stuff along those lines. So I always remind people of that. Like always ask those clients for feedback. I always do. I take surveys. I ask them what they need more of, what they need less of. what they liked about programs. Ask them, because you want it to be so freaking easy for them to work with you, because you probably are an amazing trainer and have so much knowledge. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, you did an excellent job of driving that point home. I got to tell you, it was both funny, but I could also get where you were coming from relative to it. So it was really cool. Well, so I always like to ask a couple of we do these ripple connection questions, as a means of helping our audience get to know our guest and maybe find what I call connection points, little bite-sized morsels of information they learn about people that kind of make them unique to them. And you and I have a connection point in common where I've had my ACL worked on twice, right? So, your time with, yeah, I saw the video. I did not see the show when it happened, but when you blew out your ACL on American Ninja Warrior, I mean, that had to really compromise some of your self-confidence at the time, right?
Mm-hmm. That was, I mean, like I said, that was the time where I decided to leave my gym and everything like that. I had torn my ACL in college, like before my left one. And that was my first major injury I
You're
ever
in
had.
gymnastics.
In gymnastics,
Yeah.
yeah. In college gymnastics, first major injury I ever had. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I was a hot mess. And I was in college. So I'm like, what's the next thing to do? My purpose in life was gymnastics. So when not having my leg, I was like, I guess we're just gonna party. Like, I don't know, I didn't know what else to do. So it wasn't really like the healthy route to go. I wound up coming out and being able to do gymnastics a little bit again, but it still just wasn't
The same.
great.
Yeah.
So when I tore it again, I was like, are you kidding me? I tore my right one this time. I was not ready for it. Everything was going really well. I had the gym, I was a Ninja Warrior. I had a couple of covers in magazines now. I'm doing really good in all these other areas. And then boom, it's like, that's it. Like all my things that I identified as, which was a gym owner, an athlete, I felt like all of it was gone. I didn't really feel like there was much left for me. So I definitely got in a really low state. And I always describe this low state to people, and I don't think they really understand the full gist of it, because it sounds like it happened so quickly. But I was in that low state for months, and states where I didn't want to talk to anybody. I'm at home. I'm honestly contemplating why should I even live anymore? And I would sit here and be like, why am I having these thoughts? But I am. These are thoughts I was literally having. And it really took me the time. I had to really sit there and actually feel those emotions. So I feel like that's super, super important. Whatever happens, whether you get in a car accident, a breakup, whatever it is, you do need to feel those emotions. And then you just can't get stuck in that situation. You need to learn from something and do something. So I decided to sit back. I had a couple mentors who just kept making sure that I was okay. And they finally were just like, okay, you've been in this for a while. You need to do something. Whatever that is. I don't remember what it was that made me realize that, you know what, this is clearly a lot of mental stuff. Maybe I need to sit back right now when I don't have my knee and I can't really walk much to focus on my mindset. So that's when I started to focus on meditation and things along those lines, kind of really picture what my life really wanted to look like. And a lot of this stuff to me was very woo woo. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This is so stupid. But then I was like, I'm just going to give it a shot and stay consistent with it. And I did. And slowly my mindset started becoming more clear. And I started realizing what opportunity I actually had from this injury, which was way more than I could have ever imagined. There's a long time where I wanted to be on the cover of Oxygen magazine. So I kept putting that on my vision board, and I just wanted to be on it just to be on it. Just because I know I'm fitness model, whatever. I didn't want to, I had that on my vision board in 2015. I wound up getting it in 2021, the cover, which is wild. But the story in the magazine is what was most important. And it was because I tore my ACL and because I went through that journey that I was able to share that story and ultimately help people. So I think that your biggest obstacle or your biggest downfall a lot of times is really the best thing that has ever happened to you.
Yeah.
And you may not know that, and you will not know that when you're in it, because it sucks.
It does suck. It does suck.
Sucks, but it's in there somewhere. And like I said, just like with entrepreneurship, if you've been there once, that if it happens again, you're gonna get through it.
Yep.
You can kind of really use the tools that you had from the time before that, because it's something's gonna happen again, right? ACL, whatever it may be, car breakdown, breakup, whatever. But now you have the tools to utilize to come out of it. And that there's a reason. So you can sit there and be like, okay, hold on.
Absolutely.
Why did this happen to me?
Well, look how different your life turned out. Had that not happened, where, might you be? And you might still be doing the gym thing and might still be miserable, right? So
exactly. Exactly. I totally agree.
Well, so let me ask you a couple of key questions, right? So these are questions that'll give us a little bit more sense of who you are. But what's your superpower, other than being super funny and hilarious? I mean,
My superpower, I really think my superpower is my energy that I give off to people. Again, I don't do it on purpose. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but so many people, when I asked them what my superpower was, they said that I give them this energy that gives them like, makes them hyped up. So I feel like a piece of my superpower is that. And obviously getting people over their pull-ups. I'm just so good at it. I don't know why, but I love it. I get everyone their pull-up and it makes me so happy.
I think of you every morning at the gym doing it. I'm like, God dang it, I can't do it as good, but I'm going to keep working at it. I promise. Well, so what would you say to somebody who is like actually thinking, and this is a little more directly in your lane of what you do from a fitness perspective, but somebody who's like, I really want to get into better shape, but I don't know what to do first.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing for them is to literally, again, just get started. If you're really just not sure like what to do to get in shape and you need that extra motivation, I do suggest you get a coach and you hire somebody that you feel really good with. It might take a couple tries to find the right person who's going to motivate you, because one trainer might tell you to do the same thing the other trainer is, and you may not be motivated with them. So you need
Yep.
to find that right person. There's tons of amazing trainers out there that can and will really help you. But a lot of times just starting off with that, like having somebody literally walk you through, this is where you're going to start, here's the basics, and knowing that you're going to start off very basic, and that basics that you're going to, whatever it is that they're going to teach you, those basic movements, because you might want to do all the crazy Instagram, crazy whatever stuff. That's going to lay the foundation for you to do all those things. So
Yeah.
I think really starting with the basics, getting really, really good at that. And then showing, like, obviously getting yourself to show up to the gym.
Yep.
So like, I mean, maybe you show up, and like my goal for the past month has been, before I got in Ninja, was like, I just want to move every day in some kind of way. And it was like, that means I'm going to go for a walk today. And I would just schedule it out. I'm just going to go for a walk today. Next day, okay, cool. I'm going to go and stretch for like 15 minutes. Okay, cool. Like went and did that. It doesn't need to be anything like that complicated. You just need to kind of put the reps in of just showing up for that moment to
Yep.
actually do some kind of movement.
I love that. That's great advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and how do you use it today?
Oh my God, I've had so many great mentors, I feel like. I'm trying to think of one that like stuck out to me like recently. I think that one piece that I told you of, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen, came from somebody, and I just kind of clicked that I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like if I just keep showing up, it's gonna happen at some point. I mean, maybe I want it like right now. But I think that was like definitely a major piece of advice that helped me continue to push myself. I also think that don't get stuck there was from another mentor, and
Good one.
that always stuck with me, because it was like, again, it's not gonna be easy. Like you're not just gonna like everything's gonna be perfect. Like shit's
Yeah.
gonna go wrong. Like you like feel it, don't get stuck, and then move on to the next thing.
I love it. No, that's great. What's the best thing a client or colleague, maybe another coach could say about you?
Ooh, the best thing. Oh, that's so weird talking about myself like that. I guess maybe that, like, I mean, I just genuinely care. Like, I really do. Like, I want my clients, and I want everything that I do. I'm an all in person. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything, and I'm all in. So if you are my client, if you're my friend, if you're whatever, I'm all into whatever we are doing, and I put everything into it because I want them to succeed
I
ultimately.
love that. Yeah, that's great. What do you want the next 5 years to look like for your entrepreneurial journey?
It's super interesting. So like after going to this thing this weekend, it was like, okay, yeah, what does this look like? I feel like a few things have changed for me. Like number one is, before, as you get into the business stuff, you start to think a lot about like, oh my God, how much can I grow this? And how many people can I get or whatever? And that's important, right?
Sure.
But it's also, what do you want your lifestyle to look like? Because that's hard. Like some people come into certain entrepreneurial things and they're like, I want $1 million a month business or something like that. That's complicated. That's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
For me, I'm like, I just want enough to be able to live my life, to wake up in the slow morning and enjoy, and really enjoy and be present with my day. So I think that's really important for me these next coming years, is focusing on the lifestyle that I personally want and how I can still serve my clients and have that lifestyle. It can be very easy with the gym, with anything, to let your business completely absorb you and everything you're doing and every moment that you have. But that's not living. And I think that people like me because I am living my life. And that's very relatable to what everybody wants to do. So for me, I'm getting really strategic on the specific programs that I'm offering, when I'm offering them. Again, just very strategic on all that kind of stuff. And I'm also doing more like mentorship stuff because I feel like I've gone on the journey. I've done a lot of things. I would love to help people on their journey. I have a couple of people now I business mentor. I never thought that would be a thing that I would do because I'm not exactly where I want to be yet, but it's helped them so much because I can tell them, okay, cool. That's what you want to do. This is where we're going to start. Here's some homework. Go do it. So I feel like mentorship is going to be a big piece of my next step. I'm less about now, like, I want to get on covers and I want to do this. I'm more like, how can I really just help and then just live the life, wake up slow, do my routine type of thing.
I love it. I love it. That's fantastic. What does the ripple effect mean to you when you hear that term?
The ripple effect. I feel like when I think of ripple, I think of when you like drop a pebble in a water and it just kind of like flings out. Like, again, that one thing that you do will affect like so much that happens in your life. So I think that to me, it means that, if I think about the ripple effect in my life, it was definitely like, injury dropped in and it was like all this other stuff happened because of that. But again, all in like a positive way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what kind of ripples can I be creating for you?
Ripples?
Yeah.
What is that? What do you mean?
No, what kind of positive actions can I do on, that would benefit you? What kind of ripple do you need in your life, your career?
I think for me, it's just like, again, sharing the message, this just being on this podcast and sharing all the stuff that I've done. That again, if one little nugget helps somebody, then I'm blown away.
Golden.
I'm golden. Yeah. If there's one little thing that, and again, just you saying some of the stuff that you said about, me being on the news and like the way that I made you feel in a good, positive way. I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do. And it can be tough sometimes because, you're always going to have those people or those clients who tell you otherwise. And you're just like, oh my God, like, am I doing it wrong? What am I doing? So I think that just that reassurance is very nice.
No, you absolutely are making a difference. You're changing a lot of people's lives, whether you realize it or not, whether you meet them or not. I feel really fortunate. We happen to be in the same town. We're going to have to go grab some coffee or something one of these days for sure. But I really think the work that you're doing, I mean, you can tell you're doing what you were destined to do. I mean, it just oozes from you in a big way. So I'm really, really excited for what the future holds for you. How would you like everybody to follow you? Because they absolutely need to like plug into this hilarity that you've got on Instagram going on. But how best would you like people to, get acquainted with your work, maybe learn about some of the programs?
So the best way is Instagram. I mean, I'm on all the other platforms, but like Instagram's where I'm actually hanging out. So at Angela_Gargano. Is the handle. You can send me a message. I always tell people too, if you like listen to any podcast I'm on, like, let me know your takeaway. Like, what was the takeaway? I'm on there. I love when people are like, is someone else messaging me back? I'm like, literally, it's me. Like, I'm messaging you back. There's nobody else.
I'm testament to that. I mean, you were so great to get back to me.
Team or anything. Like, it's me. So I will message you back. I'd love to hear anything there. And also, if you go to my website, angela-gargano.com/strong, you can go on there and there's, a couple free things that you can take just to kind of get you started or things along those lines. Like, there's a bunch of different programs on there that you can try, and don't ever hesitate to ask me, like, maybe you are trying to get into fitness and you're like, I don't know where to start. I'm happy to help you figure out where that starting point can be for you, whether it be with me or somebody else. I don't care. I just want you to show up and do it and do the thing.
Absolutely. Well, Angela, this was a whole lot of fun. I'm so grateful you agreed to be on the Ripple Effect podcast. Guys, we'll be back again with another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast very soon. But until then, Angela, ripple on.
Thank you.